This film kicks off a series of short how-to videos that accompanies the Book of Rubbish Ideas. And tonight I'm going to be showing you how to make my fabulous rubbish flatbreads. Now you need to jump onto the website to have a look at the recipe and get yourself up to speed. You just go on to www.bookofrubbishideas.co.uk, do all the bits, and well, I'll show you what we do next. Now I call these my rubbish flatbreads for a very good reason. I use leftovers as part of the recipe. I've made up my dough mix here. It's just a standard recipe. As I say, check on the website and you'll see what's in here. But I've also added a really big handful of rice, which came from last night's meal. There wasn't actually enough to do very much with today, but there was certainly enough to chuck into my bread mix. When I do rice bread, it always gives it's always really light, very, very light and fluffy, and it actually stays really fresh for a good few days. And it also gives it a really good rise as well, because it's quite starchy. All right, so start with a nice floured base and just grab yourself a little piece of dough. Chuck it down and roll it out. Now, this is a lovely recipe to do with children. If you've got any kids, or if you haven't got any kids, drag some in from next door, because it's a really safe and simple thing to do. And once the children realise how easy it is to make their own bread, they will not be nagging you for money for school dinners. They'll be asking you for some really fabulous things to fill up their wonderful flatbreads. All right, so I want a nice medium heat going on, just to give it a little bit of a hot blast. Don't put any oil in, don't put any butter in. You just need the pan as is. Now I'm just going to grab the flatbread and chuck it in. So there we are, one nice thin flatbread, chuck it in the pan. And I have to say, the next 2 minutes are pretty dull. So instead, while you're watching, and you'll be looking out for some nice little bubbles to come, just to show me that it's nearly ready, I'll tell you about something else instead.
Here are 5 great reasons to bake your own bread. Number 1, you know exactly what's gone into it. You're the boss and you're in charge of all the extras, and I'm not talking about additives, bleaching agents or preservatives either. Number 2, it helps break the myth that all food comes from the shops. This is a particularly empowering feeling, and whilst I'm not suggesting you knock up a loaf every day, although of course you can if you want to, if you do replace 2 or 3 loaves a week just by making your own, it might even encourage you to start growing a few things in the garden too. Number 3, the process is much easier than you think, and you'll impress yourself with your achievements. You don't have to stand there and pound the dough for ages. A few minutes is all it takes, and if you're pushed for time, why don't you knock it up in the food mixer while you're filling the dishwasher and let the hook do all the hard work for you. Number 4, the convenience factor will soon kick in, and then the fun begins. Once you realise how easy it is to fit in a bit of bread making into your daily routine, you'll soon be hooked. And just think of all those journeys to the expensive inconvenience shop on the corner that you're going to save yourself. And finally, number 5, you can make good of so many of your leftovers. Grate up a limp old carrot or a courgette that's on the turn and destined for the bin, and mix that into the dough for textured, coloured bread with added flavour. Potato water's excellent too, or any other veg, and it will leave you with almost zero waste for your bin.
Somehow, bizarrely, look, this one's come out in a triangular fashion, just because that's obviously what it wanted to do, which is fine. I'm quite relaxed about the whole thing. They all taste delicious.